I have been with my wife for around 8 years. We met in university. I have always had certain struggles and have always felt off, but I have managed. We have a 2-year-old, and they have exhibited certain behaviors that worried my wife, so she started to read books, and as my mom. My mom told her that I also exhibited such behaviors, and she said it was normal. To be fair, I am far from normal, so I get my wife's concern. We spoke about it, and I suggested, why are we beating around the bush? Let us get a professional opinion for our child. Which we did, and it turns out he is okay. But we keep an eye out. Now this is where things start to go awry. Now my wife wanted me to get tested. I expressly told her, I do not see the value in me getting tested. I am happy and I get on some deeper level. I probably am different, but I am okay with that. I do not need confirmation. Either way, she encouraged me, and I said, fine, what the hell? What is the worst that can happen? They pretty much tell me what I have suspected for a long time. Go through the process, and it turns out I most likely suffered from a form of ICD as a kid. Most likely ODD. I am 100% on the spectrum and I have ASPD, but apparently I am also extremely intelligent, which is news to me. I was never a great student, but not a bad one either. It appears that has played a large role in why I have been able to function. I am a transparent guy, so I just gave my wife the report and she read it. It also appears she was asked questions about me during my evaluation. My wife is upset because she does not know who I am anymore. She does not know what is an act or what my true feelings are. I tried to explain I do love her, but she asked me difficult to answer questions like, what is love? And how do I know if I love her if I do not know what love even is? It caused an entire debate, and I asked her, did she ever question my love prior to this? Did she have issues with me prior to this? She told me no, our marriage was great. Her words. She always thought of me as a kind, compassionate, caring, and lovely person. Then I asked, why does that have to change because of a report on me? She stated because according to the report, I have a deeply flawed view of what emotion is, and most of my feelings and behaviors are probably done out in expectation or a perception of what I think is a proper response or reaction. To be honest, it all went over my head. And at the end of the day, I told her I am me. But she claims, how can she know this is true? Or if I am all the things she thought I was? This could be an entire act. I told her this was her idea. I did not want to get tested. I was fine with how things were. She claimed she needed to know for our child, and then told me she is going to leave and needs space. I gave her the space for about 4 months, then yay, I got divorce papers. I called her up and asked what is up, and she said she wants a divorce. She does not know what is real or what is not with me anymore, and she has to do what is best for our child given the possible genetic and environmental factors of being raised by someone that has my issues. Then she told me she wishes she never got tested, and I told her, but this was her idea. She flipped it, saying I could have fought harder against it, then blamed my mom for not getting me tested earlier. This is when I said she is kind of messed up for wanting to leave me after I did what she wanted. Help me out here, Reddit. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm trying really hard to understand how you can be a kind, caring, and compassionate husband when you were just diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, ASPD, and oppositional defiant disorder, ODD. Those are diagnoses based on clinical manifestations and are often in pretty direct opposition to the way you're presenting yourself. Especially considering you've always suspected you had these disorders, and your wife both picked up on your mannerisms and saw similar behavior in your young son. I don't know a single person on this earth that would meet a kind, loving, and compassionate person and ask them to get tested for psychopathy. That just doesn't happen. Something doesn't feel right here. I'm surprised so many people on here automatically are taking your side. You sound like an incredibly unreliable narrator to me. For anyone unsure what a true diagnosis of ASPD entails, here is the DSM-5 criteria for diagnosis. Link to DSM-5 criteria. Comment 2. She is all kinds of screwed up. I honestly believe she has read too much online about your condition and has messed up her own perception of you based on others. I also worry about your child now, and if she will ever love them the same since she feels you don't know how to love. Will she feel your child doesn't either? I would want to know how she describes love, because there are so many different variations of what people consider love. I'm sorry you are going through this when it seems like you haven't done anything to deserve this treatment from her, but to simply do as she asked. It's so unfair to you that she is treating you so differently now just because she read a report on your condition. She married you for who you are, not based on what some papers say your thought process is. Now, for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. So, things have been pretty hectic since I last updated you all. After the divorce papers landed like a bomb in my lap, I thought that was the worst of it. But no, life had more in store. My wife, well, soon-to-be ex-wife, decided to take it a step further. She went to my boss. Yeah, you heard that right. She told him about my diagnosis, how it might affect my work, my interactions with colleagues, everything. I was blindsided. Next thing I know, I'm called into a meeting with HR. They're talking about concerns and workplace dynamics. I couldn't believe it. My personal life was now a spectacle at my job. I managed to keep my position, but the damage was done. Trust was broken, and the whispers started. Every move I made was now under scrutiny, as if I was some kind of ticking time bomb. It was humiliating, and the worst part, I couldn't even be mad at her. She was scared, trying to protect our kid, but it felt like a betrayal. Then, as if things couldn't get more complicated, my mom got involved. She's always been the type to take charge, and she wasn't about to sit back and watch her son's life crumble. She confronted my wife, and it got ugly. Accusations flew, old resentments surfaced, and I was caught in the middle. My mom accused her of overreacting, of not understanding what family means. My wife shot back, saying my mom was the reason I was broken in the first place, for not getting me help as a kid. In the midst of all this, my 2-year-old is picking up on the tension. Kids are perceptive, you know. He started acting out, and I couldn't blame him. His whole world was turning upside down. I tried to be there for him, to be the stable presence he needed, but it was tough. I was struggling to keep my own head above water. The final straw came when my wife's lawyer brought up my diagnosis in the custody battle. They painted me as an unreliable parent, someone who couldn't be trusted with a child's emotional development. It was a low blow. I felt like I was being punished for something I couldn't control, for being who I am. But then, something unexpected happened. My boss, the same one who had to deal with the fallout from my wife's revelations, he stepped up. He wrote a letter to the court defending my character, my work ethic. He talked about how I'd never let my personal issues affect my job, how I was a valued member of the team. It was a turning point. The judge saw through the theatrics. He recognized that despite my diagnosis, I was a capable father. He awarded joint custody. It was a small victory in a sea of losses, but it meant the world. I could still be there for my son, watch him grow, be a part of his life. And my wife? She was shocked. I think she expected to walk away with full custody to cut me out. But life doesn't always go the way you plan. She had to accept that I was still going to be a part of our son's life, whether she liked it or not. The divorce is still going through, and it's messy. But at least now there's a glimmer of hope, a chance for me to rebuild. I'm not the villain she made me out to be, and I'm not going to let a label define my life. I'm more than a diagnosis. I'm a father, a colleague, a person. So that's where I'm at, trying to pick up the pieces to make sense of a life that's been turned inside out. It's not easy, but I'm doing my best. Thanks for reading. My wife looks down on retail jobs, but when our kids struggle in the job market, she blames me. So I drain our savings and start their dream businesses without her approval. My 51-year-old male wife, 50-year-old female, has said multiple times that she would prefer death over working jobs like retail or food service. Not only that, but she has heavily implied, even though she tries to deny this by saying it was just a joke, that this principle extends to how her kids, nieces, and nephews should feel about those jobs, and how she thought she would die if they found themselves in that circumstance. She knows nothing about the current labor market because she's a stay-at-home mom who grew up with a hospital executive father and a mother whose family owned a boutique hotel and a lot of successful restaurants. I myself know very little about the job market because I've been a doctor at the same hospital for my entire career and worked weekends for my mother-in-law's family before that, mostly to prove to my in-laws that I had good work ethic. My son supposedly did everything right. He's 28 years old and has a computer science degree. He went to a flagship state school and got good grades and internships. He was laid off from a Bay Area tech company 2 years ago. He has a very difficult relationship with my wife and has been on and off with not speaking to her, but says he could never cut her out completely because he loves her. My other son is a dentist, and my daughter is in her first year working in family law. My wife later got a master's degree but never used it. However, education is very important to her. My 28-year-old told me not to tell his mom that he was laid off, so I did not, because I know that my wife would say that he should be swimming with offers as a computer science major, and that if not, he was putting employers off. I am also going to tentatively give him the benefit of the doubt that the market is as bad as he says it is, that people who say you need to put in thousands of applications or you're doing it wrong are right. Long story short, he got a job at Starbucks a month after being laid off. He then got a retail job 3 months later, and as of right now, he's in a more managerial position there. He hates it and wants to get a tech job. He sent me dozens of automated rejection emails, screenshots of his application lineup, etc. Even though he took a job where he didn't expect his mom or her friends to shop, the inevitable happened. A friend of a relative ran into him and mentioned it to my wife. She freaked out and knew from my reaction I knew all along. So she blew up at me and my son. My son hung up on her after she said he needs to move home and apply to corporate jobs full-time. He said he would die before living off of her money. My wife started accusing me of giving her a panic attack and admitted she was heartbroken. I led her to believe my son still worked at the large tech company. She then said lying was wrong, and what's even worse is we had more than enough money to support our son being unemployed, yet I chose for him to work retail and not tell her. Am I the idiot for keeping a secret because I knew what would happen? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Explain to your wife that her aggressive ignorance and misplaced judgmental snobby attitude is why she has one less child. Honestly, you should have set her straight years ago, or at least tell her to take her fancy master's degree and see where she can land in this market. Comment 2. Not the idiot. So your wife's family money comes from their service industry businesses, but for some reason, to work in such an industry is the lowest of the low in her opinion. What does she think paid for her education then? Your wife is the AH and also a huge hypocrite. Now for the update, thanks for tuning in again. So the mess just got messier. After the blowout with my wife, things seemed to calm down for a bit. But calm in our house is like the quiet before the storm. My son, the one working retail, he's been applying to tech jobs like it's his second full-time gig. But nothing's biting, and it's wearing him down. He's got this look in his eyes, like he's running on fumes. I can tell he's ashamed, even though he shouldn't be. Meanwhile, my wife's been on edge, snapping at the smallest things. She's been meeting with her friends more, probably to vent about our family crisis. I overheard her on the phone talking about how she feels like a failure because our son is stuck in a dead-end job. It stings, hearing that. Then, 2 days ago, my daughter, the one in family law, she calls me at work. She's crying, which isn't like her at all. Turns out she's been let go, budget cuts, they said. She's terrified of telling mom, says she can't handle the disappointment or the I told you so's. I tell her it'll be okay, that we'll figure it out. But deep down, I'm not so sure. Yesterday, my dentist's son calls. He's got his own practice, but he's struggling. Insurance companies are a nightmare, and patients are few and far between with the economy how it is. He's thinking of selling the practice. He's not looking for advice, just someone to listen. I do my best, but it feels like I'm juggling grenades. Today, the bomb went off. My wife found out about our daughter. Not from me, not from her, but from one of those friends she's been confiding in. Turns out my daughter had told her friend, who told another friend, who told my wife. My wife's furious, says I'm making a habit of keeping secrets and that I'm destroying our family. She's got this idea in her head now, that we should use our savings to start a business. Something respectable, she says. A tech startup for our son, a law firm for our daughter, and maybe even buy a dental practice for our other son. She's convinced it's the only way to save face, to save our children from menial jobs. I'm against it. It's a huge risk, and our savings are for retirement, for emergencies. But she's not having it. Says I'm not supporting our kids, that I'm okay with them failing. It's a hard choice, but I stand my ground. I tell her no, that they need to find their own way, that we can't shield them from reality. She's not spoken to me since. I can feel the divide growing between us, but I can't just throw our future away on a gamble. I'm worried about my kids, about my wife, about what all this stress is doing to us, but I'm trying to hold on, trying to keep us afloat in this storm. Thanks for sticking with me through this. My in-laws moved in to help with the baby, but instead they let their son wreck my home and ruin my credit. So I kicked them out and changed the locks while they were out for a family dinner. Before anyone comes for me, yes, I am legally allowed to kick them out whenever. They pay 0 bills here and do not even get their mail here. I am a 30-year-old female. My mother-in-law, MIL, and father-in-law, FIL, moved into my home 5 months ago to help us. This was immediately following me giving birth to my daughter. They occupy the space above my garage. They pay 0 bills, despite both working full-time, and as I mentioned, they do not even have their mail sent here. The whole point of them moving here was to help with the baby, because my husband is deployed and I had no one. 2 weeks after they moved in, their adopted son, 21-year-old male, came to live with them. They did not ask me. I immediately ran into issues with this because he blares the horn from the driveway for seemingly no reason. He has severe ADHD and apparently it is a tic, or revs his truck and dirt bike up for hours for no reason, and it was constantly waking up the baby. So I told him directly that he either stops or he was not welcome here anymore. My in-laws stopped coming over after that. I literally did not see them once from November to January because they were mad at me. Because their son said fuck this and moved out and in with his girlfriend, and they blamed me for being controlling and causing problems. Well, 2 weeks ago their son moved back in, I am assuming, because he is here 24/7. And as of last week, he started taking his dirt bike out again, and once again my baby is not sleeping because he revs it right outside our window. Whenever I went out to say anything to him, he would take off, so I never got the chance. But today he was sitting out in the driveway and started blaring his truck horn and yelling out the window, telling his mom to hurry up. He literally blared on that horn for a solid 3 minutes straight. I was mad because I had just got the baby to sleep, and she has been difficult lately because she is teething. So I went outside and flipped out. I told him to get off my property and that he was not welcome back here. My mother-in-law immediately started jumping to her son's defense and said that I could not tell her who she could and could not have here. So I screamed back, "The frick I can't! You do not pay any bills here. You do not even get your freaking mail here. That kid steps foot on my property one single time again and you will be out of here." They leave. Well, my husband called asking what happened because she texted him. He is on base right now. And I told him that their son was at it again with his nonsense and he was not welcome here anymore. My husband is on my side, but said that threatening to kick his parents out was wrong because they have nowhere else to go. I told him they can go to a nursing home for all I care. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, but your husband is not on your side. However, he said that threatening to kick his parents out was wrong. This is literally the opposite of being on your side. Tell him to support you or stay quiet. You need to kick his parents out now, not wait for them to continue their BS. It doesn't matter if they have nowhere to go. They aren't your responsibility. Let the unsupportive absent husband know it's you or his parents. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Threatening to kick his parents out was wrong because they have nowhere else to go. So, they moved in under false pretenses since this. My mother-in-law and father-in-law moved into my home 5 months ago to help us. The whole point of them moving here was to help with the baby because my husband is deployed and I had no one. This is clearly nonsense. They aren't helpers. They are freeloaders. Edit. Forgot to vote. Now, for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. So, the drama hasn't stopped. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. Last week, my mother-in-law did something that really got under my skin. She went behind my back and invited over a bunch of her friends for a support group meeting in their space above the garage. I wouldn't have minded if it was just a quiet gathering, but it turned into a full-blown party. The noise was unbearable, and of course, it woke up the baby. I confronted her the next day, and she acted like she didn't do anything wrong. She said I was being too sensitive and that I needed to loosen up. I couldn't believe she was talking to me like that in my own house. I was fuming but kept it together for the sake of peace. Then, 2 days ago, I found out that my mother-in-law had been talking to my husband behind my back, telling him that I was overreacting and that they were considering moving out because of my unreasonable behavior. I couldn't believe it. My own husband started to doubt me, thinking maybe I was the problem. I felt so betrayed. I thought he was on my side, but it turns out he was listening to his mom's side of the story without even asking me about it. But here's the real kicker. Yesterday, I found out that my father-in-law had been using my name to sign up for credit cards. I got a call from a collection agency about a card I never applied for. I was shocked. I confronted him, and he admitted it, saying they needed extra money because they weren't charging us rent. I was livid. How could he do something like that to me, to his own son's wife? I told them they had to leave, but my husband begged me to let them stay, saying they had no other options. I felt trapped. I didn't want to cause a rift between my husband and me, especially with him being deployed and all the stress that comes with it. So I agreed to let them stay, but I made it clear that there would be no more parties, no more sneaking around, and definitely no more credit cards in my name. And just when I thought things might settle down, today my mother-in-law's support group showed up again, uninvited. They were loud, and it was clear they weren't here for support. They were here to party. I tried to kick them out, but my mother-in-law played the victim, saying I was attacking her friends and that I was an awful host. I felt so alone in all of this. My husband is far away, and I can't burden him with these problems. I have to handle this on my own, but it's getting harder every day. I wish I could just pack up and leave, but this is my home, and I shouldn't have to run away from it. I'm trying to keep it together for my daughter's sake, but it's tough. I'm stuck in this toxic situation, and I don't see a way out. I just hope things get better soon. Thanks for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.